In this sci-fi dystopian tale of survival, we follow Ace as he scavenges for his existence in a massive underground bunker. An outcast, he's always on the run from security forces, AI robots, and mutant creatures. Alone in this world, his only desire is to escape Subterra and see the sun for the first time in his life. But what is waiting for him on the surface? And that's a valid question. That is the intro to Subterra. That's created by Warren Davis and Steve Krueger. Am I saying that right?
You are saying that right.
All right. Well, hey, welcome to the show, Steve.
Hey, Rocky. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm very excited to have you on because, you're from the West Coast. I haven't really talked to many people from the West Coast on my show yet. So that's a new perspective, I guess.
We call it the left coast.
Yeah. So, everything lined up and we got to set this up and I'm excited to have you on. So, first of all, thank you. Thanks again for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So you busy or what's going on? You're in the middle of your season 2 on your show, right?
Yes. And that read was amazing. Like I listened to you read that copy and I went, that sounds like a good show. I kind of want to listen. Oh, that's my show.
Hey, awesome. That's what I've never done that before. I wanted to give it a shot,
Yeah, I liked it. You're a natural pitch man. I love it.
Hey, let's do it.
Subterra is a scripted sci-fi podcast that I made with, as you said, Warren Davis, and the second season is out now wherever you find podcasts, which is the greatest thing about podcasts. You don't need like a network or you have to sign up for anything. Like you just say it's a podcast, and like anyone can find it, except for your parents.
Exactly.
My dad's still like,
they use
where is it? What channel? What channel is it on?
That situation, yeah. I mean, you'd have to be. You're getting up there in age now when you can't do that. But hey, they are out. Nothing wrong with that,
Yeah, totally. I am. We're busy working on the third season because people seem to like the second season, and I had a ton of fun making it, and I just want to keep making more. So I hope people find it and enjoy it, and like and review.
There's so many of them out there. So like, shows like your show, I have never even heard of until I started, kind of talking to people and looking into things here and there through this podcast, and it's cool how you find just different things that have such an audience, but the audience doesn't even really know they're there yet,
Yeah. We're, I guess I should like explain why I did a podcast. I mean, I guess why does anyone do anything? But I work in TV. I'm a TV producer, TV writer. I've done some really bad TV and some okay TV and some TV that I'm proud of that not a lot of people saw. And I worked with my partner on this, Warren, at a creative agency in Austin, where I was taking a break from TV, and we were just kind of sitting around bored, as you happen to get at an agency, and we just got like obsessed with those Boston robotics, those robotic dogs.
Right.
I just dig them. And also at the same time, I'm like, oh my God, these things are going to be patrolling the streets in 20 years. Like
they're interesting.
Yeah. But there's like, it was just really fascinating that they modeled it after a dog. And Warren and I are both dog people. And we're just like, what's that relationship like, in the future? Like, what's it going to be like when you have a robot dog that has like the same kind of relationship with you, but also can like shoot lasers and like do fun stuff. Then I moved back to Los Angeles. We were in Austin. He stayed there, and we were sitting around like, we should make this a show. Like there's something here. We had this idea about this whole underground world after the earth had gone sour, and like a kind of caste system underground and all these different characters. It was, I don't know. We were going to pitch it.
So I guess this is something that probably went on over how long of a period did you just kind of chatter about this until it became like where you're at now? Like what the part you were at, I'm sorry.
This was like a couple of years. Like this was, we called it.
Because it seems like you got pretty deep down that rabbit hole. You got a lot.
Full on, like a literal rabbit hole. And we were, this was a couple of years ago. We were like, let's go pitch it. It's like Game of Thrones in a bunker underneath the earth after blah, 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 blah. We had all these crazy stories, and we started to build like a creative deck with visions of what it would look like. And we beat it out, all the story and all this lore and narrative. And then the pandemic happened.
Yes.
And it affected everyone. And it also affected like the sort of TV buying business. Like everybody just said, no, we're done. Like, no, we got to figure out what's going to happen.
Movies, there wasn't a lot of anything. They were just, it was a lot of, I mean, it's not called reruns anymore, but it was just, tapings and things, right?
Yeah. Like they just shut down making movies. And so like further downstream, they shut down like buying ideas to be made into movies and shows. Like everything just froze. And so I'm sitting in my garage in Los Angeles, not able to leave the house. And we just kind of were chatting on the phone and said, there's no way, like, who's going to buy this? Like, what are we going to do? We're going to be two more guys with a show about an underground bunker, Game of Thrones underneath the earth. And I said, well, why don't we just make it a scripted podcast? And
but I mean, before you got here though, I mean, I will like, don't they just sound like great ideas? Because like you saying it already, I mean, and the storyline, like it really is a great idea. It just shows how hard it is to get those ideas out there.
Yes. Everyone has a great idea. It's like harder to make it happen. Like that's the real trick. And we were just kind of bummed out about the world and bummed out that we couldn't do anything with this idea that we loved. And I came up with Scripted Podcast, and he said, that's a really good idea. How do we do that? And I said, I have no idea. Like I've never made a scripted podcast. I don't cut audio. I don't do this at all.
Yeah.
And that was my learning to make sourdough bread during the early quarantine. Like I tell people, like I went to the University of YouTube and I just looked up like how to do all these things and watched all these influencers who taught me how to like edit and make sound effects and do this and that. Yeah. And from that big story, that big Game of Thrones in an underground bunker, we sort of squished it all down and just focus on this one storyline. And it's this kid, Ace, and his robot dog, and they're just trying to make it to the surface to see the sun. And so it wasn't this grand.
But it's perfect because you just opened yourself up to the rest of all of that. And if this one doesn't catch on, you have other options, right?
Yeah, like the world, it's the first time I've ever done something where like the whole world was built and then we just focus on a little section of it rather than like, oh, now we need to figure out all these other elements and you're doing it on the fly.
Yeah.
And so I sat in my garage and had actors record stuff remotely and bring it in, and we did a season. It was very small.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And people sort of liked it. Like people, it's not the biggest podcast in the world, but people emailed us and said, "Oh my God, life was so miserable, and your 3 hours of podcast got us through it." And I went, "Oh, well, that's cool."
I listened to I started the first episode, and I could already tell like it was something I was interested in, but I was like, you know what, I want to bring him on. I want to talk to him a little more, get even more of a backstory. And now I'm going to like it even more now that I know it's the start of like a whole world of things that you're doing, It is, like you said, like the Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings or whatever you want to call it. But yeah.
Yeah. And so I had such a good time making it where I guess, I'm like a seasoned TV guy who pitches stuff, and you're just kind of, you drive around and go from building to building, and you sit in front of a bunch of people and you go, "It's Lord of the Rings in a bunker." And they go, "Huh?" And then you go, "Please buy this." Like it just, for me personally, like I got some power back where I'm like, I'm just going to make this, which is how I started an independent film. And then, decided I wanted to make money. So I went into television. But it became like a big talking point when people would ask me about the podcast. I said, you should make one yourself too. Like I felt like a kid in a band, and you just have all this technology and you just like, go make an album. Don't worry how it's going to make money or how you're going to pay rent or whatever. Like just go make something. And I was imbued with the podcast spirit, which you're obviously a part of, which is just go make it. Like, don't wait for, the planets to align. don't wait for Hollywood to call you or whatever whatever your version of that is. Like, just go make it and learn. And so from a guy that had never cut audio and never directed actors, voiceover actors, now I could do that stuff. And so I did not waste my quarantine.
I love it because, it's kind of how I got started too. I mean, I'm not as far down the path as you are, but it's cool to hear you who has done it that way. Cause that's the route I'm taking as well. You know what I mean? I have my job. I do my job. I do my family time. And then my wife, when she does her thing, I do my thing. And my thing has just been learning how to do this whole podcast thing, So it's been fun.
It is absolutely what I love about this world is like, there's no right way to do it. Joe Rogan didn't say, no, I went to podcast university and I have a master's in it and I know what to do. It's like trial and error, and it evolves. And what I really absolutely love is like the sense of community where TV, it just gets pushed out and people go, oh yeah, that was something a lot of people worked on. This feels like, I just feel seen and felt and heard by people that appreciate it and also probably want to make their own podcast or their own stuff. So
this worked out great because I mean you're like I envision myself doing things like you have done. So I appreciate you coming on. It's great to talk to you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I mean, give me some more on the actual story though. So you told me how it's kind of the story. Well, explain how it is the bigger part of the picture.
Well, we see it through the eyes of a 16-year-old orphan who has some sort of device that helps him see. He has these glasses because he's literally blind. And we've kind of like reimagined a fascist society, Chile in the 70s, or Andor of today. Like there's this oppressive government at the top of Subterra that uses the levers of power to keep things moving. And at the very bottom are the sort of forgotten people. And Ace is an orphan. He's basically just a scavenger in the sort of the trash pits of this place. And he has had a miserable life, as many young adult lit characters that we sort of were inspired by. And he just wants to escape the oppression. He wants to escape this world that doesn't really care about him. And so when we meet him, he's building a robot dog. This is set 150 years in the future, and they use sort of robot technology to kind of oppress people and keep the gears of Subterra moving. And so he's built himself a dog because he doesn't have any friends. And he's also inspired by a book that he's seen that was made before the earth went sour, like a sort of boy and his dog kind of children's book. And he sort of emulated this lifestyle. So he builds this robot dog named Hazel, and they go on this journey to escape Subterra. Like no one has ever left this place. Ace was born in this bunker. It's 10 miles, underneath the earth. And as he works his way up, he discovers, the various caste system. There's characters that are like almost considered royalty. And there's a sort of like, there's a side quest with a cult leader that is, making people think that there is actually a life on the surface, and Ace kind of gets wrapped up in this character. And I don't want to spoil the end because no. The story turns, but
you start to realize anything for me.
Yeah, you start to realize like there's an even bigger world. There's like there's a king and a queen, and they are fighting with each other at the very top of Subterra. So it's a very small story to start with. It's just a boy and his robot dog, and they're trying to get from point A to point B.
I love it. I love it. So I got to ask you the question.
Sure.
So like you and he had talked all these years about all these different parts of story, or does it happen like you get stories and then somehow you put them together? Like, is it more, I guess, do you branch out from your one tale, or do you have different things that you connect?
Well, I guess it's unique for us because we were going to pitch this as a show, and you can't pitch a show. Well, you can do anything, but it's hard to say. It's a story about a boy and his robot dog, like that.
Right.
That's not enough elements, and it's why it lended itself very nicely to a podcast because you can't see anything.
Right.
So what we did and what I like to do is we built the world. Like
Okay.
we had images of all of these sort of these systems that exist within Subterra, these characters. We had, we wrote a backstory. Okay,
Yeah.
This guy started it, and then his grandson is now the elder, et cetera, et cetera. Like we kind of did way too much work, but
Okay.
in the long run, it's fruitful because we know.
But
Well,
you had fun doing it.
well, it's really interesting because I was listening back to the season, and there's a character in it, this cult leader, and there's a sort of famous actor plays him, and sort of famous. He'd be upset to hear that. A very famous actor plays him, and he wanted like a bio. He wanted like, he read the script and went, okay, I'm a cult leader and I'm crazy and I'm like, all the sort of top level things that that would color a performance. But I said, no, let's write like 5 pages of like his entire life, which, when you start out screenwriting or something, like, yeah, you got to write a bio for your character. None of it may end up on the page. It might just be Bruce Willis trying to get out of that building on Christmas. And
Yeah.
you know nothing about his twin brother that died, when he was 6 and he never but it's like it really taught me that those what seem like really painful exercises and like a lot of work that you don't feel like shows up on the screen or the audio screen are actually really helpful. And
Like,
they're
where did
really.
you say you picked that stuff up at?
Where did I pick it up from?
Yeah, like, where did you, what phase of things do you learn those things, is my question.
What phase? I don't
Yeah,
understand.
like, did you go to school? Did you
Oh,
learn through other people?
how did I learn?
Yeah.
I went to film school, unfortunately. Please don't
Okay.
go to film. Please don't go to film school if you're listening. Just
Okay.
go make films. And I moved out to Los Angeles, and I started working for an actor named Gary Oldman at
Okay. Yeah.
his movie company. He was directing movies and producing movies, and I read bazillions of scripts, and it was sort of like my graduate school. Like I just read so many scripts, and also hung out with a pretty cool actor. And I guess through osmosis, through like working with like a lot of writers and reading a lot of
Yeah.
scripts, and then hanging out with a pretty accomplished actor and
So, like,
asking.
it was like real world experience almost.
Yeah, but that was like pre the internet, and I think now you can get all that just by going to the University of YouTube. And like
Yeah.
there's like
Yeah.
amazing screenwriting YouTube channels and podcasts, and like
There.
John August does a podcast about screenwriting. Like it's again what like I love about this world is you don't need to go work with Gary Oldman and read tons of
Right.
scripts for 2 years. Like you
Right.
can stay wherever you live and become incredible at something just by osmosis, just by looking at your
Inspirational.
computer. Yes. Thank you.
Inspirational. Oh man. Well, I'll tell you what, I am very excited for one to, I know my son and I, we're definitely going to listen to this. I mean, do you have like is there like a mature type of thing on the show?
No, and in fact, a lot of the feedback from the first season, which again, it's feedback from fans, where I'm so
Yeah.
used to feedback from network people or executives who, filter a bunch of data scraping and marketing
Yeah.
gobbledygook.
Like,
Like
this is
was like,
real. Yeah.
yeah, this was like, hey, I liked it. And my whole family listened to the show in the car, and I was like, that's
Okay.
amazing. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
It is completely family friendly. There are no
Awesome.
bad words. There's no there's action violence, but
Right.
and it's interesting because it's not like that's not really a tone I kind of work in, but I don't know, something about the pandemic and people trapped and there's some, you're just
Well, you had
driving to a
to,
park, you just want
yeah,
something to do together.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it is because I think that's kind of where I got started with it too. I just wasn't able to see a lot of people anymore. I moved away from a lot of my family and friends, so we weren't seeing the parties and the birthday, wedding, reunion, whatever. They just weren't happening. So I was like, the only place I'm going to see them is if I do this. So that's how it all kind of started. And now we're just kind of piecing it together as we go, type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic was awful, but at the same time, it like gave everybody a chance, to really realize how important connection is. How,
Yeah,
wow, I really don't want to be in my house all the time,
yeah, yeah,
Like I want to see people. I want to be at a concert or a party. But it also gave us time to like learn new things, which
exactly.
was
Yeah,
like when you're in life and it's just the weeks roll by and then it's another year and you're just like never get off the machine. It was in a weird way
I
really,
went through
really.
phases. I mean, it was like, I did this one thing for a while. Now, another, and now I'm on the podcasting world, but I'm like, I kind of like this one a lot more. It's like I'm learning so much. I even started this other thing I'm going to do with my son that's like learning the history of America. Maybe it goes into the history of the world, whatever, just cool, fun stories and lessons and whatever,
Yeah, it was like I said, a lot of people learn to make sourdough bread, which is great, because if the
Yeah.
apocalypse does come, we're going to be like really great bread people. Um,
Gosh.
but yeah, it was sort of a blessing to like, let's take a little breather from like
Yeah.
the pressures of life, and let's we're all super talented. Like everyone is talented. That's always like my belief, but not everyone has time to
To
exploit it.
find or make it better or whatever.
Yeah, I took like a watercolor painting class in college, and I cannot paint at all. I'm terrible, and it just looked like a 3-year-old did the first one. But by
Yeah,
the end
exactly.
of
That's how
this,
mine would have looked.
by the end of the semester, I went, well, it's still terrible, but look how I improved. And
Yeah.
so that's always struck me as like, if you're not good at something, it doesn't matter. Like just keep sort of plugging away at it, and you will improve. And I'm you'll surprise yourself. You're
Anyone lucky enough to listen to this episode, just this inspirational guy, Steve. I mean, come on.
I know.
He's awesome.
Eh, no, I mean I'm pretty cynical and typical beat up Hollywood guy, but
No, man. But
when I talk about Subterra, I get excited because it's pure, and like you said, or you asked about like is it family friendly. People would say we listen to it in the car as a family, and there's a part of me that's kind of sad that our world is so fragmented, and some people watch TV and then the kids go in the other room and look at their phones and like,
yep.
yeah, like it's cool. It's not really that different. It's always been that way a little bit, but it's not, it wasn't intentional, but the fact that this turned out to be something that like, yeah, even my teenager kids, like they enjoyed it. People would tell me, and I'm like, okay, we're
Yeah.
on to something. It's, we're not
No,
changing
I'm
the world,
excited.
but
I'm
you can
excited.
listen to it with your family, and it's designed to be exciting and action packed, and it's not like a boring radio play. Like it's more
It sounds fun.
Mandalorian than
Nope. I promise you, Steve, we're gonna try it. The LUDE family is gonna try your show on a road trip we're gonna take here in a little bit. So we're gonna
it's
try
perfect for a road trip. Yes.
it. Yep. So I'm saving it for that now that I think about it because I like it.
That's yeah.
So hey, rabbit holes. We left at I got it. And now I missed my rabbit hole. We left somewhere and then we got right back there and I was gonna lead us on. So we'll leave it at that. I
Okay.
missed. But you mentioned there's AI in the story, and you told me that you're interested in AI and how it's changing, and creatives art, and I'm like seeing it right now. So like I just found out about AI and like the artwork and stuff. So it all started. I tried to reach out to some people and read it, and wanted to get some like a competition for art I wanted to put together. Like,
Right.
hey, if I say draw draw a dog that's like a robot. People submit their things and we vote on it, and we try to grow an audience like that, so they get their name out there, and good for everybody, I thought. But I was told that's not good. That's like there's a phrase for it, and I get it now. So that nixed my idea. But then I was like, I like artwork. I want to do this stuff. I can't draw. I was like, let me try this out. And I just punched in like, I want a rabbit with a blah, blah, blah. And it painted out this like really cool picture. And I'm just like, whoa. And then I started, and now like I put it on every one of my episodes just because it's so cool. And it's so easy to get. And I feel bad, but like I tried to get the community involvement first. I just didn't have the community.
So you're talking about like Mid-Century or Dolly, like one of those, AI art platforms.
No, it's it's an app on my phone. And if you look at like my YouTube page, like the screenshot is like a little painting looking piece. And that's all it is. But like, my first idea, I wanted like, hopefully I get a community and we can do that. But long story short, now I use it. So, I mean, that's going to take over everything. Do you not agree?
I mean, yeah, I've been really like obsessed with AI and as it pertains to art. Like I know AI is going to help in the medical realm, and I'm sure AI is figuring out how to, like find sustainable energy, like, in the science world and the math world and anything in STEM, it's going to be amazing. Like it's like a billion Einsteins all working on chalkboards at the same time. Like it's going to make our world better. So I'm happy like machine learning is around. But as someone who's
it's making iRobot that much closer, or any other movie like that.
Yes, like it has to be reined in, has to be maintained. And as someone who has worked in the creative side, I saw it coming, I sort of started researching it a couple years ago, and it's really hit in the past year, especially with art, like where, like I said, Mid-Century or Dolly, like you can, the key art for Subterra is me typing in post-apocalyptic robot dog, distressed, busted eye. And it's just those key phrases generated an amazing piece of art that I'm just like, I could never have drawn this. And in fact, the first season, the art was done by a friend of mine's daughter. She's an aspiring artist, and I think she did a very good job, but I've now replaced it with the AI art. And
so you're using, I didn't know you were using it also. Yeah. So you're using it too.
Yeah, like it's, I was just listening to this podcast about electronic synthesizers in the 60s and 70s, and Moog, I always pronounce the guy's names wrong, and this other guy. And this new technology came along. You could press these keys and get these sounds that could not be made with strings or blowing into a tuba or whatever. And of course everyone was like, it's all over. Orchestras are done. It's all going to be one guy at a computer pressing buttons.
Yeah.
And then it kind of evolved into a tool, through a lot of iteration. And I guess the Beatles used it. And then, like a Kraftwerk in the 70s plays around with it, which leads us to rap music, which leads us to electronic dance music. So if these guys had not come up with these things, we'd still be, listening to 1950s sounding rock and roll. Like it's like a tool, and it needs to be used appropriately. But at the same time, it is going to probably take over, and we're going to get to the point where, you're watching a political debate, and you're like, these are both deep fakes. Like these aren't really this guy isn't really the president, right? This is a computer simulation. So
maybe it's closer than we think.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It is one of those subjects where I can't draw, and now I can generate unbelievable art. So I feel empowered, and I feel like I'm lifted up to where someone who could really draw and really create exists, and I don't feel as inferior. But at the same time,
And then listen,
that
man,
person
we're best
worked really
friends. Like now I
hard.
feel better about that too.
Yeah. Like, but I'm watching, these AI chatbots that are like creating copy and they're writing scripts. And I'm like, but that's what I do. Like, oh no,
Yeah.
we can take all of Tarantino's scripts and load them into this thing and say, now make a vampire Tarantino movie. And it just shoots it out. And you're like, oh,
I didn't
so
know they did that now. I'll be honest, I
yeah.
didn't know they did that.
I mean, it's not great, but it's also like, think about the first computer printer. They were horrible. And then
Right.
now they can 3D print a house. So,
Or even, well, I mean, you just maybe thinking out of the box here, just, if I'm you, maybe you start using it yourself to generate ideas. Maybe it's an idea maker.
that I've actually started doing that. I'm like, I throw things in there and I'm like, I wouldn't have used that word glorious, but I like that. So,
Yeah.
again, it's a tool. And so it's not
Awesome.
it's the synthesizer, but it's the person that's playing it that makes, the music touch the world. It's like, you can't just turn a synthesizer on and say, make a dance song that everyone wants to dance to.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's
That's fun.
a complicated subject, but everyone should go out and make some AI art and have fun, at least.
Hey,
Like,
it is. I'm having a blast. I've never been able to draw worth a shit, and I'm having a great time making this artwork. So thank you for empowering me to make artwork.
absolutely. It feels good though, right? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, my daughter, I feel bad though, because my daughter's so good at it. She's so good at art. And like her art is still better, but like, I do like doing it. She draws art for me too. So I love her.
yeah, but like when she grows up, maybe there'll be some world where she can, like imagine if she could get what's inside of her head out that much faster and that
Right.
much clearer. Like
Yeah, exactly.
we're bad drawers. So I say robot dog, distressed face, eyes busted, and
Right.
it approximates it. But I'm like, if your daughter is like genuinely talented, imagine if there was some tool that could just suck it out of her head and just make like a Picasso. Like,
I'm gonna let her use this app. I'm gonna try that. I think that'd be a great thing. Spit out
yeah.
ideas, and then she can kind of model her ideas after those. Because they're still her inputs to make that thought.
As we were getting ready to release the second season of Subterra, we hired an artist to do some work, and it wasn't good. And we were in that sort of giving feedback and notes, and it was getting expensive and frustrating. And then this revolution that happened like 3 months ago or 6 months, whenever all this AI art sort of machine learning software just dropped, and it cranked everything up. Like, we created all this art. I mean, we had to manipulate some of it in Photoshop, but it just started us. Where if you said to me, all right, go draw a robot dog, it would look like a 4-year-old did it. Like, I can't draw. So I don't know. I just feel supercharged by it and excited. And
I'm excited too, man. I love it, Steve. I love the idea. I love, it's really cool. I don't know, man. I see
we really
similarities.
rabbited this hole.
I see similarities. Gosh.
Yeah.
So where's your Boston accent? Yeah, rabbit and holes. Where's your Boston? I don't hear Boston accent.
Both my parents are from the Midwest, and they moved to Boston. My dad was a professor, and they don't have accents, but I mean,
yeah. So if your parents didn't have it,
they're not there. Yeah, and when you grow up in Boston, you hear it so much, you just kind of, I don't know if I want to have that accent. Like, it's rough.
Deep.
It's
a
deep
accent.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I had teachers that had such thick Boston accents and girlfriends, and it never clicked with me. So I do get that a lot. I get, "Where are you sure you're from Boston?" And I say, "I very much am from Boston." We don't all sound like we're from Southie. We're not all. Who went to my high school? Louis C.K. went to my high school, and he doesn't sound like he's from Boston, right? He doesn't. Maybe he does. Maybe he was a bad example.
Yeah, I don't know. He's not very PG right now. I don't think he's got a big fan base at the moment, does he?
No, not so much. But he's from he went to my high school. He's, from the town I grew up in. So I never thought he had an accent. But
I'm not
yeah,
sure if he does or not.
I never detected one. So yeah, I just, and especially now that I've moved away, I just try and people have a lot of They have a lot of feelings about Boston when you move far away from it. Like, oh,
yeah,
you're from that place where everyone
yeah,
is Boston-like,
yeah.
really, really mean, and you're very into sports. And
I've done it in different areas, but I know exactly what you're talking about. It's in different ways, it's different things, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, I have asked people who've worked with me for a while, and I say, so you've heard my accent, you've heard me speak, correct? They go, yes. I say, where do you think I'm from? Because they have no idea, and they kind of look up and kind of roll their eyes a little bit. And I remember one person saying, I got it, and she said, Orlando. like Orlando has Orlando doesn't have an accent, and no one, it's just the oddest. Like, no, it couldn't have grown up further from Orlando.
Nowhere in Florida has, maybe South Florida, but nowhere in Florida has an accent. Florida's just every state, every person mixed together.
And Orlando is the Florida of Florida. Like, it's just no one really lives there. It's just it's all owned by Disney. It's not no one has an Orlando accent. So that has stuck with me.
That's an odd pick. I don't know how you would get that.
If someone asked me what kind of accent you have, I'm going to say, an Orlandian.
All right. So I'm laughing. So I want to go into one that I thought was funny today. And I hope it's as stupid as it sounds. So I asked you, do you have $1 million idea? And you said, yeah, it's fun to talk about $1 million ideas. And I was like, well, I can give you one that's the complete opposite of $1 million idea today.
Okay.
So my wife had kittens. Her cat had kittens, and now they can climb up the stairs. So she wanted me to block the stairs off so the kittens didn't get through the railings of the stairs. I thought about it for a few seconds. And I took one, rail and up to the other rail, and it broke in half, and it didn't work at all. So I failed miserably on keeping the cats out of the stairs. So with that comment, tell me about your $1 million idea that's gonna be the one. It's gonna be the one.
I wouldn't assign it $1 million idea. I think it's a world-changing idea, or at least in this country.
Okay.
And I'm not a political person. I don't, whatever you're into, cool. I don't, cool, whatever team you like.
I appreciate that. Yep.
Awesome. Don't care. But I've kind of noticed that presidents, the people that run the country, there's like nothing at stake. Like, they just kind of, I don't know, become president, and then when they're not president, they're selling NFTs of themselves, or they get Netflix deals. They go make documentaries about Chicago. Like, it almost seems like a stepping stone along a career, and it's like it should be super important. So my idea is we elect a president through democracy, through voting. Like, great, and you got. It's also, I'll attach this one in here. I think just 6 years, and no, don't run for president. Just like, you got 6 years, and then it's done. We don't need, you start running for re-election the day you take office, like just 6 years. But at the end of the 6 years, there's another vote. There's like a confidence vote. Everyone can participate. And if the country gives you 50% positive upvote, you're fine. You get to retire and go get a Netflix deal or sell NFTs. But if you're 49.9%, if there's like less of the country is pleased with your performance as a president, then you got to go live in Alcatraz. Like Hannibal Lecter, with that clear, like that clear thing. And all day long, citizens can come and scream at you. So,
oh my God.
You wake up at 9 a.m, And it's just a line of tourists who are like, you suck. I hate what you did. So you're incentivized to at least make half the country go, okay, he did good. So none of this screwing around, none of this, I'm going to piss everyone off and then go
I love
become
it.
whatever. Alcatraz. It's just sitting there.
See,
it's not doing anything.
dude, I was thinking about this the other day. I had written down, there's parties, right? So I wrote down the squirrel party, and I was like, there's probably people out there that say these things. I don't know who they are because I don't follow anything, but it's like, why can't they just make this so much easier on ourselves? Like, there's so many ways that things could be just so much easier without all of these problems. Like, why don't they just do that and save all of the hassle with like a third or an eighth or a 50th of the people in government? Like, they make it so much harder than it has to be,
Yeah.
All the money that would be saved if they just did that. Why wouldn't they do the common sense thing?
We're not a common sense people here in America. But
gosh,
and people always ask me, like, if you were president, what would be day one? What would you do? And I always have a ridiculous idea because world peace or feed everyone, like, that's not possible. Like,
right?
We got to get on the metric system. It's just absurd that we and one other country are.
You want to hear my fix?
Yeah, what's your fix?
My fix. I think I can fix everything right now if my party was elected president. So I'm willing to bring you on as a cabinet member because I like all of your ideas about presidency and voting. I would like to make a treaty with Canada and Mexico. I'm thinking that Canada, Mexico, and the United States have the agriculture and the, natural resources and the whatever, we all trade within our three countries and we make everything we need and we, supply it within the countries. And then anything that's like out of our region, we can still do or whatever, but it's just severely taxed and we don't want to do it. Like, we got to take care of this first. I mean, I hate to say that. I mean, so don't get me wrong. Like, we're not going to forget. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
And an EU, but of North America.
Yes, like Mexico. I mean, if any of those other countries would need to be talked to or whatever, I'm not against that. But the easiest would just be that treaty, and we have almost everything we need, so we don't need to be involved with all the problems that we're creating by being in all the places.
Yeah, it makes sense, and if you've been to Europe since they become the EU, it's really well run. Like, it's just one currency, and you can travel around, and it's like, oh, this really works. And it's this idea of no, those people down there need to stay down there, except for a few come over because we need workers. But then the most of you don't come over. Like, it's just, guys, we gotta we gotta work. We got stuff to do. Let's go.
Exactly. It's like, if that wasn't the issue, like, imagine the dollars saved just by like one. And it's like I said, it's too easy. You just can't do that. So
no, because even within Canada, if you're in Quebec, you have to speak French, and if you're in America, you have to speak bad English, and if you're in Mexico, you have to speak Spanish. Like, let's just we all speak the same language. Money. We just want money and stuff, and Jeff Bezos is going to give it to us if we just all work.
That's too funny. That's too funny. Oh man, I like that little topic there. That was fun. I wish I was going to get my little segments ready, but I want to take that right into one of my favorites, and you said that it's one of your favorites, so we got to talk about it. So a lot of episodes I ask my guests, I'm like, if I told you I had this thing called the LUDE cookbook and I wrote down all of these awesome recipes. So Steve, if you had to put a recipe in my LUDE cookbook, why don't you tell me what that is?
Okay, so I'm as a Bostonian, I'm naturally obsessed with Cajun food. No, it makes absolutely no sense. I was going to college, and was I in college? I was living in North Florida, and I was broke. I think I was in college. I was broke and hanging out with some guys at a house on a Saturday, so there was probably some beer involved. And this giant 18-wheeler truck broke down right in front of us, and it said Zatarain's across it. I don't even know what that meant, but if you're from certain parts of the country, that's a food line, a
jambalaya.
brand. Yes, and I don't know why the truck driver left. I don't know if he didn't have a cell phone or something. He just left to call for help because his truck broke down, and because of beer and youth and bad decision making, we said, let's break into this truck. So we opened the back, and all of a sudden we're dragging out like 50-pound bags of beans and jambalaya mix. And I grabbed this Zatarain's, pallet, 108, whatever a gross is, 144 boxes of gumbo. I'd never had gumbo. I didn't know what it was. But being a broke 19-year-old, I was like, we're going to eat some gumbo for the next 3 months. And I did. And I started to really, really dig it.
Isn't that funny how you just like changed your whole palate, like just because of that incident?
Yes. Poverty is a powerful force. So we're just eating free gumbo. And, then I stopped being as impoverished and started making it myself and making it from scratch. And then years later, I traveled to New Orleans and had it, in fancy restaurants, and then had it in dive bars at 4 a.m. And it's just America in a bowl. Like, it's got, French Canadian influence. It's got African influence. It's got poverty and slavery and all the things that sort of a stew that does make up America. And if it's made correctly, it's quite delicious. It's a fun, of all my soups, it's pretty fun. There's like shrimp floating around in there and sausage and weird okra that are oozing stuff. So that would be my recipe, but I've made it so many times. I mean, it's probably the dish I've made more than any other dish in my life. And gumbo starts with a roux, and it starts with a very, very dark roux. Roux, if you don't know what cooking, what the cooking term is, it's just flour and oil or flour and fat at equal parts.
Flour and butter? Is that
yeah,
right?
it can be flour, butter. I sometimes do duck fat. You can do oil.
Okay.
And you have to cook it very slowly. And dark roux needs to be cooked to like the color of a penny or almost chocolate, like really dark. And if you turn the heat up too high, the flour burns, you get little black specks, and it's bitter, and you've ruined it. And I've done this many times. So you have to put it.
Sounds tough.
Yeah, it's the only hard part of gumbo is making a correct roux. But if you don't make a roux, you're not making gumbo, you're just making chicken soup. And so I have sat there and stirred it very slowly over the lowest heat for sometimes up to an hour, and your arm gets numb. And you're like, why am I making gumbo? This is a waste of time. This is annoying. And I think I got this from a guy on YouTube. So I did not come up with it, but you take like a Dutch oven, and you put your oil and your flour, and then you just put it in the oven at like 300 degrees, and you stir it maybe every 20, 30 minutes, and it comes out perfect. It is like the greatest hack I have ever experienced.
I love hacks.
I don't stir it anymore. It comes out really dark. You never burn it. It's like it just opened up a whole new world. And so do that, and then put all the gumbo's great because it's like whatever you have in the house, you just throw in there. And
I like that. Yeah, I'm gonna try that now that I know the hack. You know what I mean? Like I'm all about the hacks. Like because I'm not very good cook. I do like to try. I like to throw this, like to throw that, but any hack is going to help me make it. You know what I mean?
It foolproofs the process because the only thing you can screw up in gumbo is burning the roux, and you don't have to spend any time with it. You just let the oven do the work, and then the rest, put whatever you want in it and make it spicy and make a big bowl of it and have a bunch of people come over and have fun because gumbo to me is fun. So that would be my entry in your cookbook.
So yeah, Andor. You had mentioned it earlier, and Star Wars, that's one of those series anymore where I don't watch it as much because there's so many of them. I just feel like it's being oversaturated. Is this a show that like maybe I would be interested in, or is it just, another okay type of thing?
Well, I grew up, I'm the Star Wars generation, so I grew up with it and it was very important to me. And then I saw the George Lucas prequels, and it became a little less important to me.
Yeah.
I, through a random act of, I don't know how I ended up there. I was at the Star Wars premiere in the 90s. It never had a premiere in the 70s because they were just like, dump this crazy movie with robots,
Yeah.
talking dogs, and whatever. Get this movie out of here. So it never had a premiere. And then George Lucas released the special edition in the theaters. And some friend of mine was like, do you want to go to the screening of it in Westwood? I'm like, cool. And I pulled up and I'm like, we're not at a screening. This is the premiere of Star Wars. And I remember
It's a little different.
I had ripped up the ticket earlier. Like, oh, I should have kept that ticket. This is probably important.
You missed
I was like,
there, man.
I was sitting next to Magic Johnson. Like, I was like, oh, this is not a screening. This is the premiere. How did you get these tickets? So like, Star Wars is super important to me. It's a huge part of my life. And then the prequels, not so good. And then the J.J. Abrams, Kathleen Kennedy, Disney bought it from George Lucas ones. They're fine. I like The Last Skywalker. I mean, The Last Jedi. But
it's just saturated. It's saturated.
It's just kind of like fan service. And, you know, I would keep going back and watch the first one. And I'm like, somebody sat in a theater in the 70s and watched this and was like, there was nothing before it. There were no droids, and there were no, the Force wasn't a thing. Like, this started it, and it's still amazing to me. But it just kind of became like a way to sell toys and blah 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 blah. And then then Disney starts making series, and like, I liked The Mandalorian. It was fine, but it the Baby Yoda's cute and this and that, and and I'm watching Obi-Wan. I'm like, it's all just fine. It feels kind of like cookie cutter.
Yep.
So then Andor comes out, and I'm like, what's Andor? I'm like, oh, it's a prequel to Rogue One. Oh boy. Okay. And I just kind of let it go because I'm like, I'm done. I've watched enough. And it's fascinating to me how social media and bloggers and the world, when something is good, they get behind it. And it's almost like I push stuff away and I wait for the market to push it back to me. And it like, I just kept reading like, this show's good. Like, they get it right. And I'm like, okay. And it just piqued my interest and kept piquing it. And I'm like, should I watch this? I don't know. And I have watched it. I literally finished it last night, and it is a masterpiece. Like, it is really well done. It is
one of my
not for kids. It is for adults. And I think because I'm an adult and I grew up in the Star Wars generation, and like, I'm now seeing The Mandalorian feels like it's for kids. It's got a cute little baby Yoda, and it's very simple.
I agree.
This is complex, and you have to follow it. It is not spoon-fed, and it exists in the Star Wars universe, but it could exist anywhere. Like, it's just a really good story that happens to take place in the Star Wars universe, and I highly, highly recommend it.
So is this a product of like a different set of eyes? Is this like a new writer, director, producer? What happened?
Yeah, it's Tony Gilroy who did one of the Bourne movies, and I noticed some writing credits. Bo Willimon, who created House of Cards, the Kevin Spacey. Like, it's real adult. It's like it's an adult drama. It doesn't have laser swords and Yodas and the Force. It's very much like about oppression and about finding the courage to stand up to it. And it's just, the world building is so amazing. And I guess I would caution people, like, you're going to watch the first two and you're going to go, nothing happened. And it's all table setting. It's all, which pays off, but it is not like those. The first one ends and you go, ooh, what a twist. I got to keep watching. The first one ends and you go, oh, okay. And the
I know what you mean. The show, it's a slow burn. It's a slow burn.
Yes, which I feel like Star Wars has moved away from the slow burn and gotten very much into, here's a little problem a character's going through, and they'll solve it by the end, but it'll kick off a cliffhanger that you got to watch the next one. Like, like a lot of streaming services want a big plot twist at the end because they want you to just watch them all, like never leave the platform. And this, I couldn't watch them all. They're so dense. I would have to stop and like, okay,
I like that.
I gotta process this. It's not bleak. It's not dark. It's just very adult, which I think I've been missing in Star Wars movies and shows. And so it was a breath of fresh air.
So I like that you're in this field, and you can probably tell me what this is. But so my wife and I, this is probably bad me saying this, I don't know, but I don't know if you like or don't like The White Lotus on HBO. But we started watching season 1, and like the humor is just like my wife and I, like it's like we find it hilarious. I don't know if other people find it that funny, but it's just like it's like me and her type of humor. Do you have any idea who's doing that show or if they've done anything else?
Yeah, it's a guy named Mike White, and he created a show called Enlightenment on HBO and like a CW show back in the day.
I'm gonna have to look him up.
Yeah, he's a really good writer. That show was made during the quarantine, like a Subterra. Like they went off to an island where it's remote, and they kept the actors separate. Like, I think it's hilarious. Like it is.
I do. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. No, you have good taste. Yeah. That's.
I only got through the second episode because my wife and I, we fall asleep very early. So like, sometimes we don't even make it through a whole episode. I hate it. I get so mad at her, but like I have to listen to her. So if she says, that's it. If there's 5 minutes left in the show,
you're done.
God damn it. I
don't think my wife has made it through a TV show in 5 years. She's falls asleep. In fact, I'm going to pitch you a podcast. This is what I want to do with her. I want to show her a movie she's never seen.
Yeah.
Just put it on in the house at 8:00.
Yeah.
She'll of course fall asleep intermittently throughout the movie. And then the next day I want to put her on a podcast and I want to have her explain to me what happened through her waking up.
I love it. Steve, that idea is freaking awesome.
If she's never seen Star Wars, she'd go, there were 2 robots and they're on a planet and then something happened and then there's a big ball in space.
You just say every week you put out Mrs. Krueger's Freddy Krueger review. You know, exactly. Mrs. Krueger's Jason versus Freddy review. And it's just her for 30 seconds. There was some guy with a knife and he like whatever.
Yeah. No, every time we watch a show, at the end, she looks at me. She's like blinking her eyes. She says, "I'm gonna need to watch that again." I missed a little bit in the middle. Like, okay.
Yep. Now her review is, hey, nope. She gets one night, and then if she stays awake and she knows what happened, that means it's really good because she can give you a full description.
Absolutely.
And if she gives you
that's 2 thumbs up if she's awake for the entire 58 minutes of an hour-long show.
Dude, I love that. That's like a weekly thing you could do. I love it. So hey, let's end on that. So we're getting to about an hour. I have a few things to cut out, but not very much because we did good.
Cool.
So Movie Maker, friends and I have talked about doing this, and I haven't done much of it, but I want it to be one of my categories we do. And I shared my Movie Maker with one of my friends on one of the episodes I did. And you said you may have one, so I would like to see if you want to share that on the show.
Refresh my memory of what a movie I'm sorry.
Just give me so here, I'll give you my, how, just thoughts. You're sleeping there at night. A movie pops in your head. Be like, yeah, that's a funny movie. I'd watch that. So I said, last night I was like a horror movie. It's kind of like a horror movie where this new tanning salon comes into the city and it's like this highly advanced tanning solution thing. That's like this whole thing where girls get robes on and they go through this mechanized system and get tan, and then they're out the other side in a spa. It's like this fancy thing that can you envision that?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. All right. So they don't know that the owner has an office in the basement, and they go through this like dryer vacuum type tube. And when they're going through the tube, if the owner's got one of the girls he wants, they drop down, and there's no cameras in the locker room. They see her go and she's gone and nobody knows what happened to her, but he brings them down into his basement and he keeps them there.
Ooh,
And then, you know, I don't know the rest of it, but that's my movie.
That's pretty good. I might have to steal that.
Do it. give me co-writer. Give me idea maker.
No,
idea
I gotta steal all the credit. That's not how it works.
Oh, hey, I'll like it. But go ahead, give me yours.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh wow, you put me on the spot now.
See, it might be a duel. You have to come up with a movie idea real quick, and the winner gets the win. You know?
Oh, that's an even better one.
Yeah.
Oh, nuts! I always have so many. And of course, when I'm put on the spot, I'm blanking. All right, let's make
up. No. You can give in the towel. You can just say, hey,
no. Let's. Yours is going to win, but let's make one up right now on the spot. Let's.
Duel.
Okay. Wait, no, I think I got one. Okay. I want to do a Christmas movie because it's Christmas, right? Is it a Christmas?
Yeah, look.
Yeah, you got a Christmas sweater on. I got my Christmas plaid shirt on. Okay, so it is a Jeff Bezos type character wants to take over the North Pole because Santa has the best what do they call his centers? They're fulfillment centers.
Yeah,
like Jeff Bezos is the bad guy in the movie. Of course, Jeff Bezos. He looks like a bad guy. He can't get packages out fast enough all year long, so he's asking his little minions, the little executives, like we need a better distribution system. And they're like, Santa Claus. He's got in one night he gives 3 billion children stuff. So it's Jeff Bezos sends people to go talk to Santa to sell his business to him. But Santa, of course, is like, but it's Christmas or whatever. And then Jeff Bezos gets mad and shoots Santa into space because he's got his buddy Elon and they have rockets and he shoots him into space.
Yeah.
So Jeff Bezos tells everyone through Amazon, Santa's gone, so I'm the new Santa, and he's wearing a beard. And he's like, Christmas will
love it.
There will be a package sent to you. And make sure you like and review the package on the website.
It sounds like a Santa Claus 4 almost, like a Santa Claus 4.
And then there's a little kid who doesn't want a package from Jeff Bezos. He wants Santa to come. He's put the he puts out cookies and milk, but Jeff Bezos's delivery people are like, I don't have time for cookies or milk. I'm going to the bathroom in a water bottle. Like, I don't have time for this. So this little kid wants Santa to come back, and his dad is a NASA engineer and learns that Santa is like up in a satellite. They haven't harmed Santa, but they just want him out of the picture. So he convinces the president, played by Tom Brady, to shoot a rocket into space to free Santa, and Santa comes down and saves Christmas from Jeff Bezos. Whew, exhausting. All right, that was off the top of my head. Yours was better, but I tried.
He gets this win. It's Christmas time. The Christmas movie wins. Gosh, that was good. I liked it. That's like a Santa Claus 4. Santa Claus 4.
You can
or
steal
5
that.
or
I'll steal
whatever.
yours. You steal mine. We'll see.
Deal.
We'll see who gets paid.
All right, man. Well, hey, Steve, appreciate you coming on. I got a lot from you. See a lot of similarities, so I appreciate you coming on talking about some things. I want to give you a chance to just give a shout out to your show and like where to find it and all those things one more time, even though it's a podcast, so you can find it anywhere, as he said.
Thanks so much for having me. And yeah, if you had a good time and you want to listen to a podcast with your family or alone while you're walking the dog, it's called Subterra, and it's available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and 800 billion other places. But
what about on YouTube?
It's on YouTube. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. It's everywhere. So it's a boy and his robot dog trying to escape a post-apocalyptic underground bunker, and it's pretty fun. I gotta say, I usually am like, meh. What I did is okay. This is actually pretty good. So I hope.
Have you worked on? Well, again, that's our ending, but we're gonna keep it going for a second because. Have you like marketed it or anything yet, or is it all just kind of through your community and through word of mouth? Like what are you doing?
I have been going on podcasts like this great one, and I've been using Instagram, Reddit, TikTok. Like, there's a whole kind of ecosystem out there that's letting
Okay.
people know. There's even a Discord. Like, we're. I'm not trying to make any money off this. There's no advertising. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to, like, I think it's good, and I just want other people to enjoy it. It's all I
Right.
ask. Like, I don't want you to send me
No,
any
this
money. There's no Patreon. I don't want your money. I want you to enjoy it as much as I do. So
no, that's awesome.
our marketing is just like a lot of art and music, and just like, if you're a fan
Yeah,
of
so
this,
it is.
you'll
It's a
enjoy it.
word of mouth. That's awesome. It's a word of mouth thing.
100%. 100%.
That's cool. Well, hey, once again, anyone watching, Steve, thank you very much. LUDE Presents. Look forward to hopefully, doing different things and having more people on and having fun. So thanks again, man.